that wasn't able to make it today. I always forget about recording. Okay, so let's take a look at the schedule real quick. So today we've got the career panel, June 18th. July 9th, we'll have our next summer speaker series. So the week of July 4th, heading into July 4th, we won't have any events. You'll have your small group session next week. Then the week after that, the week of the 28th of June, you'll be off. Nothing really going on then. And we'll get right back at it on July 9th. July 9th, we'll have the author of a book called The Human Element. It is a book that is not released yet. It's going to be released in October, and it's already been an Amazon best-selling book. It's one of my old professors from grad school. And so there's going to be a little bit of pre-reading there. We've got the first chapter of the book that's attached to the meeting request. I'll also send it out probably sometime next week, but really ask that you guys read that first chapter just to kind of get in the right mindset for the summer speaker series on the 9th. Then the week after that, the week of the 15th or the 12th, July 12th, you'll have the next small group session. Week after that, the 23rd, we'll be doing our sustainability workshop. And then we'll actually have another summer speaker series, July 30th. We're just finalizing some details of one of our FPA member companies, their CEO to speak. So we should be able to nail that down here pretty soon. And then once we get into August, we'll have our final small group session and then our wrap up on Friday, August 13th. So if you have any questions about the schedule, just let us know. But we are, just the big reminder is nothing the week of June 28th heading into July 4th. We'll keep that week off. Okay, Chelsea, can I give it to you to do the training?
Absolutely. There you go. And let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep, coming through clear.
Perfect. Okay, great. So in looking at this, as Apurva mentioned, everybody should be getting a daily email first thing in the morning. It looks a lot like this. It comes from report@industryintel.com. So if you're not seeing it, you can do a quick search for that or reach out to me and I'm happy to help troubleshoot. So I don't want to teach anybody how to read an email. That's pretty basic. But what we do want is to just let you know what is beyond that email. I think this will be really helpful as you maybe dig into projects where you're supporting your organization or just want to learn a little bit more about certain items, companies, that type of thing. So when you get the report, it's organized by product type. It gets into market-based news and general industry news. But what you can do from here is you can actually interact beyond the headlines. So if you wanted to click into anything here, and we'll just use this first one as an example, it will open up in our online dashboard. Whenever you do this, it gives you a few capabilities that go beyond just reading those headlines. The first is that, of course, you get the full text of the article to interact with, but you're also going to see recent related news so that you can really get a more clear picture of what that headline means, what it's about, and what other recent news has been impacted by that same topic. You also can take yourself down a path where maybe you want to learn a little bit more about one of the topics or companies that's being discussed in that article. And this is where I think, especially as people who are maybe newer to the industry come and interact and you want to get your arms around some of the terminology and products and concerns around what's happening in this space, you can come in here and choose any one of these topics, companies, products, and interact with that, get a full report on those things, and just learn a little bit more about, the language around the industry, what's happening with key companies, look at analysis, find out things right down to patent type information, or look at images of new products. So it really gives you a nice resource to come in and educate yourself and dig in a little bit further. Certainly, if you have specific interests, maybe you've been tasked with learning more about, what is happening with retail food packaging, for example. You can use this as a resource as well. It's a smart search up here, so it will give you relevant curated news on any subject or company of interest. And the other thing that you'll have with this that is a nice jumping off point just to understand more about what's available within not only the industry intelligence service, but get a nice perspective across the industry, is that your dashboard homepage is a great jumping off point. And I'm just navigating here right now. So this gives you a view towards key products, related coverage, end use markets, some key companies within a watch list for you as well. So all of these are areas that you can interact with, just use as a nice touch point to gain more insights around what's happening in the industry. The last thing that I want to point out here too, because I know there's a lot of conversation within the small group sessions, and certainly I'm sure internally within the organizations that you're working with, is that you can collaborate using this resource. So when you're in your report and perhaps you see a headline that catches your attention, you might want to share with someone. When you select that and it opens up within the dashboard, you can take that and you can forward that news to other colleagues. So you can certainly share that to folks within your small groups. You'll see any of the other folks participating in the summer internship listed here, as well as group leaders. You can manually enter any of your colleagues within your companies that you're working with. And then you can send that off to them with whatever notes or insights that you find. And it's just a nice way to get that information in front of other people that you're talking with, throughout the summer. And with that, you'll also see across the entire dashboard interaction, you have the ability to, and I'm just going to choose another topic here to jump into, but you have that ability built in right within every headline too. So whether you're in a report-based view like this, or you're in an article, or you're within that information map home screen, you can push that news around really easily. So certainly take advantage of that. If you have any issues with receiving the report, or you haven't logged into the dashboard and you need a reminder of your credentials or any assistance with navigating, I'm happy to help. So feel free to reach out anytime, but I promised to keep it quick, and I think I did. So unless there are any specific questions, I'll go ahead and hand this over to the panel.
Thanks, Chelsea.
Yeah,
okay,
my pleasure.
So Amy, I'll share that last slide with everybody on the panel, and then I'll hand it off to you, okay? All right, guys, we have a fantastic panel today. So we've got Angie Taylor, Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer of PPT Plastic Packaging Technologies. Welcome, Angie. Thanks for joining. Then we've got a couple of our small group leaders who are have valiantly volunteered to be on the panel as well: Simon, Eric, Jonathan, and Casey. So I'll let you guys do a quick introduction during your first answers, but just for the purpose of time, we thought we would dive right in and maybe not necessarily go through the usual introductions. So with that, Amy, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, great. Thank you all for being here, and thanks, Apurva, for the little intro. You should have received these bios in your email yesterday, so hopefully you've familiarized yourself with our panelists. We're very grateful to have them all here. They've all got a great background and a lot of info to share. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into questions. As a reminder, use the chat feature to send in any questions you might have, or you can jump in as necessary. And we're going to try to hold time at the end as well, so that you can ask questions and we can make sure we hit on your burning topics. So let's go ahead and get started with why the flexible packaging industry. What led you into flexibles?
Right.
I can. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So for me, my background, I had spent a lot of time in consumer packaged goods and started out in the apparel industry and really leading product development and supply chain, and then moving into sales and operations planning. And, when you look at the use of flexibles and packaging in general throughout those products, I mean, it's just so important, it helps to really deliver that brand value to the customer. So people are always engaging with packaging. And so I think it's just a really exciting industry when you look at the types of innovations that have come into play, just the wide breadth of roles and careers and opportunities inside really some amazing companies. So I think, the innovation, the growth, the trajectory of growth, and really the need for that product in just so many different industries. There's a lot of opportunity and a real security on being able to maneuver your career and find different paths to take there. So a lot of opportunity for sure.
I can build on that point. So I'm on the sustainability side with Novolex, and on the flexible packaging part of our business, I just agree. There's a lot of opportunity here, and you might think, that being in sustainability, what is that opportunity if there's criticism around plastic packaging? A lot of what's happening in the industry, packaging at large, is that consumer brands and others are moving away, in some cases, from rigid plastic packaging into flexible plastic packaging because it's lighter and has greater performance characteristics and has a significantly lower carbon footprint than its rigid counterparts. So that's a really good thing, because reducing carbon footprint and having products that can reduce waste in supply chains, reduce food waste, and have any number of other performance characteristics. Having a low carbon footprint is a really important part of that equation, but there's also the end of life piece. And recycling rates for flexible films have opportunity to increase. So when I say opportunity, I think that when you look at the flexible films industry from a sustainability standpoint, the opportunity is a more circular model for flexible films, meaning that more of them are getting recycled and turned back into films again. And there's just nowhere to go but up in that space. And that is what I believe the future of this industry will look like.
Okay, great. Anyone else want to chime in there?
I mean, I can add an aspect to it next to the depth and the breadth of the industry and the various different roles and paths that you can take in that career. As you may have read in the intros or the bios, I'm from Europe. I'm half Dutch, half German, and that industry being more and more a supplier in a more and more globalized international world really enables you to also act more and more within an international and global supply chain. To what Eric just said, you're dealing with suppliers and customers all across the globe, and many of the members within the FPA have locations, plans, offices, sites also outside of North America, in Europe, in Asia, and Latin America. And that was really something that that got me really hooked very, very early in my career when I joined my company and working with other packaging companies before it, because it enabled me to deal and act and work with different groups from different nationalities, from different contents, and just have that breadth of cultural differences within that industry that we all are dealing with every day, right? And that is, I think, since it is still a very, very there's a lot of technology, innovation, a lot of science going on. So you cannot just do everything right now. We have to, but you cannot just do everything over a video call. So you get to travel, you get to see different places and see and meet other people, right? And that's in some other more tech-driven industries, maybe not really necessary anymore. And you just work remote the rest of your life. I mean, I look at my wife and they don't even have an office space anymore. She works in a US company and they're all across the globe basically. And she will probably never, ever set foot into a physical office with her current employer, right? And our industry will for sure, most definitely get back to having that in-person relationship and interaction again.
Simon, I'm kind of want to ask you a follow-up in terms of the culture in the flexible packaging industry in Europe compared to North America. Is there anything you would say in terms of differences, similarities?
I mean, there's one thing that is very similar to here in North America, and Apurva, you and I, we spoke about that before because you are very familiar with our company also from Europe. So it is in Europe as well as in North America and truly globally, it is a huge industry, but at the same time, it's a very, very small industry. So you always will end up running into the same people. They may have changed the companies they worked for, but you end up working with the same people probably for the rest of your career if you choose to stay in flexibles, because you just get hooked in this industry and you just get so excited and you just stay in it, right? That's really something that Europe shares with North America. I think one of the things that I see differently is pace. The pace of developments is in North America much faster than it is in Europe. Once a customer or once the industry chooses to go in a certain direction, the pace of delivering towards those goals is in North America much faster than it is in Europe. But that is also based on the consumer behavior that is much different in North America compared to Europe. I give you an example. When I moved over to the States, I had to set up my internet connection at our house. I called AT&T and they said, well, we'll have a technician over this afternoon. And I said, that can't be true, because in Europe, you order an internet connection, you get a schedule, and hopefully 6 weeks thereafter, someone shows up that installs your internet, right? So here you are living in an economy that has much more variety and choices to offer. And based on those choices that it offers, there is a much fiercer competition. And because of that, the pace of going to market is just much higher.
That's great, Simon. Thank you for all of that insight. I appreciate you shedding light on, that flexibles is a great way to get out into a global footprint. And flexibles definitely, I think I've been in several job functions and several of you have, but definitely is a way to get out and travel and make relationships up and down the supply chain, which is unique to our industry. So let's talk about what kind of experiences did you have early on in your career that have been really impactful and stayed with you in the long term. So I think it's always easy to kind of get wrapped up in where we're going and where we want to be versus really engaging in the moment. So maybe Casey, you want to start us off on that one, on some impactful experiences from your early days?
Sure. Thanks, Amy. So I started out as a packaging engineer. I worked for Unilever. And at the time, I think maybe we were one of the first companies to have a 2025 large sustainability commitment. So some of the experiences that I had early in my career were really sustainability focused. And, I always tell people at the time, we really, talk the talk and we walk the walk. And that shaped me now into what I'm passionate about, what I'm trying to push in flexible packaging, what I like to research and talk with a lot of you guys about. But it was the early experiences in all kinds of packaging, not just flexible, but how do we improve something? How do you, and it started as, how do you, reduce the weight of a cap or something like that? And then how do you make it more sustainable or make the process of manufacturing more sustainable? But all those experiences have kind of snowballed into what I can carry in my job today.
Casey, would you mind talking a little bit about coming from a brand owner and now serving a very global customer base, being in healthcare, obviously just let's call it a high cost of failure. What's it like serving a whole host of different customers rather than maybe, serving the needs of one brand owner and maybe seeing it from one perspective rather than multiple?
Yeah. I loved working for brands. I really did like seeing my product on the shelf. And then I switched from an engineering role to a sales role. That was very scary for me. I said I would never do this, and here I am. But I get to work with so many different customers now. I mean, it's incredible that the breadth of the customer base that I'm working with is amazing, and what they're working on in the healthcare space is truly life-changing. And it's also though, like, I think a part of what you're saying is like, it's really, everything we're working on is really important. You know, it could kill somebody, you know, or it could really help somebody in a situation. So I find that the move that I made was excellent for me, because I truly get to wake up every day working in the healthcare space with flexibles and know that I'm making an impact in people's lives. And I love learning about what these different companies are working on. It's very exciting for me, and yeah, go healthcare.
Yeah. Awesome. No, I appreciate that. And so can I throw it to Jonathan for a second? Jonathan, you've got an interesting look, because you've been and continue to kind of see it from all parts of the value chain, right? Nova being a resin supplier, and then coming from some of the equipment suppliers. I think you've had roles in active packaging and really like very technologically driven packaging and serving the meat industry. Can you talk about how that's been and how each role has kind of given you a different look on the industry? And then I want to tie that to how that's made you a really strong and public speaker for the industry. I mean, you've definitely speak at multiple conferences every year. And, at a relatively young time in your career, you've been definitely a thought leader here.
Yeah, I think, for me, my passion for packaging, and I think that's because I've been able to get a different side of the fence, and I can understand and empathize with people when they're faced with challenges, when I know what the customers are dealing with. And I remember when I worked for Zip Pack and being in a cheese plant, and the cheese customer saying, well, it's the zipper's fault. And then, well, at the same point, the film people are saying, no, the zipper was saying the film people's fault. And we're all pointing fingers. And at the end of the day, it was the equipment's fault. They had messed with the settings on the machinery. And those were some of the challenges. But I've been inside those plants, and I've been on both sides of the fence, I guess you could say. But I think as far as where and how I've been able to get on stages, it's because I care so much. And at the end of the day, I want to see this industry continue. I think one of the things that I may have mentioned a few weeks ago at our first session is I have pictures of me in a box of resin when I was 2. I was doing elongation testing when I was 5, because that was the cool thing to do, or so I thought. But it's because I care so much, and because I want to see everybody succeed. And that's one of the main foundational and functional reasons as to why really brought forward the ELC, was to make sure that the next generation and others feel welcome, but also are able to see that what they can do and all that's possible. And that's what I get excited about with regard to the whole flexible packaging industry. Is we've come so far over the course of the last 20 years, and there's so much further that we can go. And it's really about enabling sustainability, and it's through partnership and collaboration that we're going to get there. So those are some of the things, and I hope that I've answered kind of your question, Apurva. I don't mean to dance around it at all, but I think the main point is that this industry, like Simon had said, it's so big, but yet so small. And that's, I think, what has me and what has me excited about it, but also why I continue to promote it and be a voice for it.
Yeah.
Just Jonathan,
yeah.
maybe to add to that, what is really, that passion is so exciting that you mentioned about, I mean, you just talked about cheese and zippers and all that, and we have those, given our company's background, we do this every day, right? We have talks every day, right? But I was just, when you said that, I thought about also there's this, everything that we do, that every member of the FPA, everybody that is part of this industry has such an impact on every person's life every day. We are all hidden champions, all of us, from the resin supplier to the film extruder to the converter to the machine or the equipment maker, because without us, the consumer goods industry, the healthcare industry, nothing will work, because it all needs to be packaged, right?
Right.
It may not be as sexy as Google or Apple or Coca-Cola or a fancy brand owner, but at the end of the day, you're gonna work in an industry that all of us, your friends, your family, everybody that you know will touch, have in their hands, and have to use every day in multiple formats, from the breakfast that you have in the morning through your snacks, your lunch, your dinner, your hopefully not, but the medics or the pills that you need to take. Everything that you touch is in one form or fashion being produced by someone within this industry, right? And I think this is truly exciting that you're working in something that everybody in the world is touching every day.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the flexible packaging industry makes everyday life possible.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody on this call is having an impact on making everyday life possible. And that ultimately is what gets people excited. And I think that's what makes people passionate and enthused about being a part of the industry as well. Apurva, you were gonna.
Yeah, I was actually gonna talk a little bit about Angie's experience. Angie, to me, what fascinates me about your role now as a chief commercial officer, and I think most recently you were in a supply chain kind of role. So talking about inputs and then now really looking at outputs. And, you know, to us, when we're deep in our roles, like ops and sales, sometimes there's a push and pull, right? Very different metrics, very different kind of, CTQs, let's call it, critical quality metrics and all that. Can you just talk a little bit about like what that transition has been like, and how being an ops person now being in a front facing role and being front facing, how that makes you better for the ops team?
Yeah, definitely. My passion has always really been in supply chain. And when I came over to Flexibles 4 years ago, we saw a real need for sales and operations planning, and how do we make sure that we're taking care of the customer every day. We have a wide mix of customers with maturities that are lacking, or some that are super sophisticated. And how could we translate that insight, throughout supply chain, to both ends of our, suppliers, whether it's our box and pallets coming in, whether it's our operations floor that's really helping produce all those great pouches or laminated roll stock. And so we needed to figure out a way to maturely, translate that and really engage our customers to understand the importance of that forward look and the planning and how to deliver best to their consumer as well. So there's been a lot of maturity there, whether introducing new tools or, individuals to the concept of kind of that end-to-end planning, and a really strong partnership between supply chain, our customers, and the operations team. So, it's been a ton of fun, because I think the passion, that Jonathan's talking about as well, and Simon, is, how do we take care of our customers? Because it is so important that these products end up in their hands on time, at the right quality, because quality is so important. And it's really, I think, opening that cross-functional communication and, being really transparent, being the stewards of the business to help deliver, ultimately to the end consumer. And we've seen that over the last year too, that ability to take new product and innovation through commercialization. There's so many partners that we touch along the way. It's been a ton of fun, but I'll tell you, it's challenging. Every day is something different, but I thrive on that. So it's definitely not for the faint of heart if you want to come in and just do the same task every day. But it gives you that ability to touch customer, to see all the new cool products that are coming down the pipeline, to know at the end of the day, financially you're delivering on your results, the consumer, you see it on the shelf. I mean, it's so rewarding. But it definitely, I think when we opened up this whole discussion, I mean, just talking about the amount of opportunities and all the different roles that come together to actually make the end product, it's been fun over my career to be on, each of those teams and really gain that appreciation. And I think Casey said it, but being close to the customer now, that was not something I was like, oh, I really want to go into sales. I do have our business development and our national account management team now under that commercialization umbrella. And so it's been a good challenge and a learning for me, but it's also brought me closer to what do we need to do internally to really help support those guys? And how do we translate that from supply chain to the operations teams and back to our suppliers to make sure it's all in sync with each other? So a lot of cool roles that are in there and a lot of great learnings and ability to mature over time in your career. So it's fun stuff.
Thanks, Angie. Could you talk for just a minute about professional development and how over the course of your career, you've made sure that you're continuing kind of in your education and furthering your skill set?
Sure. I kind of have this personal philosophy that if you're too comfortable, something is not right and you're not learning. And so I find over periods of time, I like to challenge myself to learn something new, whether it's, being on a board, leading a committee, learning from other people in the industry, or, diving into a formal training program. There's so much. I think one great thing that came out of the last year was it is just an open global forum for education. So you can go and push yourself. This last year, I took a whole class on negotiation, just to really push myself to learn a different skill set and engage with different people. I think lifelong learners, that's one of the most important things. When I'm looking to hire someone new, I always ask that question. What kind of learner are they? What experiences have they had over the last year that they learned from? Because everything is constantly evolving, I think if you're not staying in front of, reading materials, showing up to conferences, being part of boards, taking the opportunity you guys are taking right now to hear from people all over the industry, all over the globe, that's something I've always done. And I think it's led to the opportunities that I've had. And, you guys keep hearing it's a big industry, but it's small. I mean, you gain a lot of opportunities from really building relationships with other people and always having people smarter than you in the room. And that's something important to me too, as I'm hiring people or I'm on committees. I want to learn from someone else, something I don't know about. So just surround yourself with people like that. Make sure, not to hesitate from going out and just joining committees to learn something and push yourself.
Great. I do want to ask, Casey, so I always like to know what some of the biggest risks are that you've taken in your career and some of the things that you've learned from that. And so, Casey, kind of interested to hear your perspective on that and how we saw in your bio that at one point you took some time for yourself to go and try something totally different for a while. So why don't you talk about that for a minute?
Sure. Yeah. So, so when I started my first packaging job and I was working in Dallas, and then I got an offer to go play professional ice hockey in Europe, and I quit my job and I moved to Europe, and it was crazy and it was great. But then I came back because packaging industry, there's always a job. So
Casey, can we say that again? You quit your job to go play professional.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And she's in the Hall of Fame. So don't let her sell herself.
And I have all my teeth. It's a miracle. But I moved to Germany. I played in Germany. I played in Norway. And so so we're talking about risks and risk taking. Like, that was a big risk. But my other more like career risk is what I said earlier is when I went to sales. I went to RIT, everybody became a packaging engineer. Maybe you went into procurement. Nobody was I didn't even know this was an option. I said I would never be a sales guy, a salesperson. I didn't understand it. I said, people don't like sales guys, right, Simon? But I thought, what great opportunity to impact that, what great opportunity to talk to the people. My customers are me. I used to be them. And now we can have these great relationships. So taking the risk has paid off for me. I love being on the other side of the table. I feel like I can make more impact here than I actually could have there. I obviously know flexible materials way better than I do now than when I was there, although I thought I did when I was there, but that's not true. And I also learned a new industry. I didn't come from healthcare. I was doing body wash. I was doing lipsticks and fragrances and so many different things. Really I'm proud of myself, and I encourage you guys all to look at other industries too, and to really, push yourself and imagine doing something that you're uncomfortable with. And in the end, if it's a good match with your natural skill set, it might be a viable option. So that's my risk-taking story.
Great. Want to kind of open the floor up for a minute and see if anyone has any questions that they want to ask. Feel free to jump in here.
Thanks, Claire. Claire really liked about Angie's kind of her advice on retooling yourself and making sure education is a key part of your continued development. Eric, would you want to maybe touch on kind of how you keep yourself sharp and also just to before that part, also just talk a little bit about coming from a very external media marketing, public relations background, and now coming to work maybe for in an industry, just anything you would share with the group there, and then certainly on the specific question there about continuing education and development.
Sure. And I'll be sensitive to my largely university-based audience here. But I've spent most of my career on the other side of the #1 funded environmentalist issues. So a career spanning fast food, agriculture, and GMOs, or genetically modified organisms, and now plastics. And I came at it initially from the kind of public affairs, industry affairs, and even change management side. And the common thread there in terms of skill sets is a lot of communication skills, and kind of understanding that external environment and the impact of that on your stakeholders, and their view of your company. And that, with publicly traded companies, the investor audiences are a really important part of that, and understanding how they view kind of the future of the packaging industry, or the future of the industry you're operating in, can be a really important piece of how you as a company direct your efforts to convince investors that you're a good long-term bet. And that is increasingly a focus. And so I think that one of the things that really excites me about my job, and I'm not really sure if this addresses a Purva's question or not, but is that there's a whole dialogue happening in the sustainability space right now about the balance of short-term return on investment versus long-term value creation that intertwines the business's value with value created for society. And the flexible packaging industry is well positioned in that space for the most part. Like I said earlier, there are opportunities, but you really do have to play a role inside your organization, keeping an eye towards the external environment and what policymakers and investors and the media and NGOs, or environmentalist organizations and activist groups, that kind of represents an entire ecosystem that shapes how your company and how your industry is viewed. And if you don't evolve or take action within your company to evolve your company's practices to align with increasing societal expectations for the role that you should play, it's a risk, financially and from a reputational standpoint. So that's one of the parts about my job that I really like, and it does help me to have that background. But to Casey's point, I've also had to take risks. I'm a public relations and marketing undergrad. I barely scraped through my MBA. I mean, the finance classes really tested me, but I spend a lot of my time dealing in data these days. sustainability reporting, and quantifying the value of our efforts with non-financial metrics. So you want to talk about stretching and being uncomfortable. I have been uncomfortable moving into that space from a traditionally communications background. But I really agree with Casey's point. And it actually was kind of helpful to me. It's almost like a therapy session to hear her say that if you're not uncomfortable, you're not doing something right. So I agree with that philosophy. I'm gonna write that down.
Eric, I like that. I'm gonna call you a champion for change. Right?
Yeah.
Just maybe one more person's input on like just the importance of professional development and how you keep yourself retooled. Jonathan, Simon, would you guys, either one of you guys want to take that one?
Yeah. I don't know if Simon wanted to or not, but I think it's critical that we continue to push ourselves, and I'll tell you that Casey stole that uncomfortable line from me. I'm just kidding. But really, it does come down to continuing to push ourselves and never allow yourself to be comfortable. I'm about to step into something that I'll be upfront and honest with all of you in this room or in this call. I am feeling very uncomfortable. I'm feeling like I'm about to get into something that I probably don't have any idea what I'm about to do. I'm not trying to be shady with what I'm saying, but I'm about to step into a new role, and everybody will hear about it soon enough. But the reality is that it's going to be good for me. It's going to be good for my career. It's going to be good for my progress and advancement. And if I stumble, it's about getting back up. The key to all this, and what I say is if you get knocked down 9 times, it's about getting up 10. That's the key to it all. And everything in your career is not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect, and the people you work for aren't going to be perfect, but it's about continuing to progress. One of the things that we've talked about, and I think it's been discussed before, but it's about progress over perfection, and nobody in here is going to be perfect. At the end of the day, that's the reality. But if we're continuing to strive and pursue that, and one of the sayings that I really push with my team today, and that is to expect excellence. We're not going to expect perfection, but we are going to expect that we are going to be excellent as individuals. We're going to expect excellence out of our teammates, and we're going to expect excellence out of each other. And that's what it all comes down to. And really, I have a ton of admiration for Apurva, for Eric. I know that, and others that have gone out and gotten your MBAs, and I would encourage anybody that has gone down that technical path to go and get your MBA. I came into the industry, I went to Clemson to study packaging and business because I knew I wanted to be on the commercial side of the packaging industry. But now I have a younger brother who went to Clemson, studied packaging, and he just got his MBA. But I think it just rounds you out, and pursue those opportunities, and don't ever think you got it all figured out, because I promise you don't.
I just wanted to add one more quick. Sorry, I just wanted to add one more quick thing, because we were talking about professional development and what you can do to better your skill set. But something smaller, like a smaller, more bite size, is there are so many free resources out there, webinars and things that I think the pandemic really kicked out there. I get emails for these all the time. I'm sure you interns do. I'm sure your managers are sending them to you. Sign up for them. You will learn a lot. Even if you can't do the full 3 days or you can't do whatever, pick the sessions that you like, listen. I find those extremely helpful when you have downtime. I'm often like multitasking, listening to one of those. So I encourage people to just kind of look around, and there's sometimes those are easier than reading a whole book so try that.
And maybe adding to the free resources, Casey and Jonathan, really, when you join, and no matter if you're going to end up in this industry or somewhere else, when you join a company, from day one, challenge whoever hired you, or make it part of the recruitment process to challenge and have your employer with you in the same boat with you, your hiring manager, to support your development, what you also want to achieve. If you want to have professional education next to your job, that you make this part from day one, that you make it very clear this is something that you expect, that you want to get out of this. And the right company will always support you there, because they want you to excel, they want you to progress, they want you to develop in your role, because the more they put into you, the more they will get out of you as well. So really do not be shy to just talk about your the standard, what is going to be my responsibilities, my compensation, etc. Make progress education, make that a vital part of any conversation, no matter which industry or job you're going to choose from day one of the recruitment process.
Yeah, I just want to make one quick point, and then I'm going to give, I'll give Casey some bonus points here, but it's what I would encourage everybody to do is to figure out who your mentor is, who your, Casey did something really cool. Casey's developed who her board of directors are. Develop that, create that foundational list for yourself, whether it's a few people that you work with, or it's a professor or whomever it is, but develop those people that are going to be the people that are going to be real with you, the people that are going to push you, the people that are going to tell you, hey, what are you doing? Or they're going to be the people that you go to when you have a question, or you're considering a different job opportunity, or whatever it may be. Create that list, build out your board, create it and use it and leverage it. And the biggest one other thing that I will say is be comfortable with asking why. Ask yourself why, ask your boss why, ask people you work with why, because it challenges not only yourself, but it challenges them. And it's quick and it's easy for them to say, well, that's because of the way we've always done it. But if they have to pause for 1 second and think about it and consider, why do we really do it this way? Just because we said we do it this way, it doesn't mean that we have to do it that way. So it's a broad example, but I just think that those are some of the critical things to be thinking about.
So I think that's a great thing that you touched on with mentors. And having mentors is, you know, almost a required tool that everyone needs to have, but it can be really uncomfortable. And how do you form that relationship? How do you go about, you know, once you've identified someone that you respect, you look up to, or you want their insights, how do you go about cultivating that relationship and developing, having a mentor type relationship? Does anyone want to touch on how they've done that in the past?
I mean, I can, and I'll try and be brief so others can as well. But I think you got to be upfront and honest. If you view somebody as a mentor, if you view them as an advisor, you got to tell them. You got to be upfront and you got to let them know. And I would find it very hard to believe that anybody who was told, well, I find you or I view you as a mentor, if you were to say that to them, they wouldn't take that very serious, because it is. And I would say that your honesty and your upfrontness is going to create a strength in the relationship. And also understand that probably today you all could say that you don't view yourselves as mentors to others, but the reality is that you need to understand that you are. And even when you think that people aren't watching, even when you think that people aren't looking at you, they are. And you all have been selected for this program for a very specific reason. You all got the positions that you got for a very specific reason, because you've shown that you can be leaders, and you are a part of some of the most incredible companies in the world. So take that and really own it, and know that while today you may not see yourself or you may not have a title as a leader, you still need to live up to that. You still need to continue to push to be that leader. And that is what I think is so critical. So make sure that you're being honest and upfront with somebody that you see as a mentor, but don't lose sight of the fact that even today, you are a leader in your role that you are today, whether it's in school or whether it's in your job.
I'll just offer a couple pieces of advice that I got when I was at this point in my career looking for a job. I think it kind of boils down to two things. You know, one is people love to talk about themselves. So ask a lot of questions about their career track and how they got to where they are. You'll learn a lot doing that. And also the person you're talking to that you may want to have as a mentor is going to come away with a more positive impression of that conversation. And then the second is always follow up. So, you know, whether or not you hear back every time, I just continue to follow up at any opportunity to keep yourself on their radar, stay relevant, provide updates about your career track or what you're doing. That would be those would be the two pieces of advice is, you know, avoid telling people you aspire to have as mentors about all your ambitions and learn more about them, and continue to stay on their radar by taking the onus off of them to maintain the relationship.
Thanks, Eric. That's great advice. Amy, I think we've got a couple more minutes just to wrap up. I really like where we're headed in terms of like final points and final pieces of advice. So we want to keep on that train. Simon?
I think Eric and Jonathan made already such great points. There's really not that much to add to it. I think it's really one thing that I would say, and that depends maybe on the personality, and for some others it's maybe just a bit tougher than for others that are maybe a bit more outgoing, or for who it is maybe just naturally a bit easier to talk and to get people inspired or motivated on something. But I started when I started with my current employer. I came out of market research. I did pretty much in a very similar things that Chelsea did. So I thought I knew a lot about flexible packaging. It turned out I knew nothing. In the first year, I was really drinking from a water hose here. But really, one thing that I did from day one is I did not tell people that I see them as an advisor. I really went out proactively and I chose my advisors. I chose my light towers or my supporters, the ones that I knew they are going to be good for me because they will help me to be my mentor. They will challenge me. They will give me advice day and night, right? And it was not only within my company, but very quickly from a supplier base. Even weirdly enough, I have such a relationship with one of our customers. Even though he is a customer, he is very much of a mentor to me because I can still learn so much from that person, right? So really go out and do not only tell people that they are going to be your mentors or your advisors, but really also look out for them and ask them really to become a part of that, right? Do not be shy about that. People, like Eric said, they like to talk about themselves. If you choose them, I'm sure they will. They would love to help. At the end of the day, we're all here to progress in this, you know, and make everybody successful, right, and excel. So they would love to support and help.
Yeah, and Simon just said this, like, know what you want from them,
yeah,
and tell them, I admire what you do, and this is what I want to learn from you. Can you tell me how I can do this or get better at it?
Because a true leader, maybe adding to that, a true leader will always lift you up. Yeah. They will always help you to get where they are. This is really truly for them the most rewarding, touching on what Angie said before, that it's really that there is so much that is rewarding also in the jobs that we're doing, right? A true leader will always help and lift you up and help you and teach you what you want to learn, right? So don't be shy to ask.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I always say is that whenever I'm going to do campus recruitment, I'm always hoping that one day I'm going to hire somebody that one day will be my boss. That's my ultimate goal. That's what I see when I go and I'm looking across the table. I want to see somebody that can one day be my boss. That's ultimate success.
Mhm.
That's great. Angie, any final thoughts?
No, I'd really just echo what everybody has said today. It's like, go out, push yourself hard, find those mentors, be really transparent with them that you do, like to Jonathan's point, you see them at light and they understand that relationship and set time commitments with them, so it's really actionable and that you get out of it what you need to get out of it. So you only live this one life, you might as well live it fully, right? So just go out there and push hard, and excited to see what all of you guys are going to be doing over the next couple of years.
Thanks so much. So we are out of time today, but wanted to say thank you to all of our panelists. We certainly appreciate your time and sharing with us today. If you didn't ask a question that you have, or throughout your summer, if you have questions come up that you want to ask any of us, please reach out. We'll be glad to sit down and talk with you about any of these topics a little further if you're interested. So make sure that you're taking advantage of this program and the individuals and resources that you have at your fingertips. And so don't be shy, reach out and keep the conversation going. Apurva, anything else you want to add as we wrap up?
No, thanks, Amy. I mean, we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Next time we'll be back together as a group will be July 9th. So certainly a couple weeks from now. In the meantime, have a wonderful long July 4th weekend. Definitely look out for your invitations to your small group sessions. Hope those are going well. And certainly, I think Jonathan, you and I are going to try to mix our groups next week and do a little small group mixer, just so we can get some more exposure across the groups. Other group leaders, feel free to do the same if it makes sense and timing works out. But no, great to see everybody. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Happy
Thank you.
Friday.
Have a great
Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.